Hello everyone, a very warm welcome again to each one of you for the virtual session of Science Children. So we are going to continue with the chapter Soil Part 4. Chapter 9. I hope you all are maintaining your notebook and you will have to take down all the important points discussed in the session, children. So let us begin for the session. Since we are learning about the soil, we have seen the water holding capacity of the soil, percolation rate and all that we have seen in the previous session. We have seen a formula to calculate the percolation of water in the soil. Now today's session we are going to begin with water retention. Since we are learning about the soil, it has some water retention capacity, water holding capacity which we have learned. We are going to revisit that. We are going to write down some points. The ability of soil to hold water is called water retention or water holding capacity. It depends upon the size of the particles of the soil and the amount of space between the particles of the soil. How much water retention will be there? It all depends on those factors. So the space between the soil particles is called pores, provide the passage for gases and moisture within the soil. So you all know soil is porous in nature. Porous means they have spaces in between them. The particles of the soil have spaces in between them. And the ability of the soil to retain water is strongly related to the particle size. It is majorly depend on the particle size. Water molecules hold more lightly to the fine particles of the clay soil than the coarser particle of sandy soil. So water molecule hold more tightly to the fine particles of the clay soil. Finer the particle, more water holding capacity than the coarser particles of the sandy soil. I hope because the finer particles will have a lesser space in between them and the water holding capacity will be more higher. Then the coarser particle will have a larger space in between the soil particles and easy for the water to percolate to move out. Please take this down in your notebook, children. So when we perform the activity with different soil samples, we'll see that sandy soil will absorb less water and allows more water to percolate, as I told you. Clay soil will absorb more water but allow less water to percolate. Percolation will be less because of the size of the particles. And sandy soil will absorb less water than clay soil because of the larger spaces between the soil particles. The area where there is a lot of clay in the soil, stagnant water collects above the soil whenever it rains. You have to take down all these points in your notebook, children. I hope these points are clear with you. Then we will see different properties of soils. Here you have to make a table, soil properties. You are learning the properties of different type of soil, that is sand, silt and clay. You have to make this table in your notebook. First property which you are going to see is water holding capacity. So water holding capacity for sand is low, for silt medium to high, and for clay is high. Then second property, that is drainage rate. That means how much it is going to percolate, how much water can move out. So sand, it is high, silt low to medium, and for clay is very low. Then cohesion between the particles, that means the attraction between the particles, there is some kind of bond between the particles. Sand is very low, silt medium to high, and clay very high. Then organic material content. Organic material content means dead and decay matter of plants and animals. So dead and decay matter of plants and animal in sand is low, in silt is medium to high, and clay medium to high again. Then shrink and swell potential. How much a soil will shrink or it will swell, that we'll see now. For sand it is very low, for silt medium to high, and for clay shrinking and swelling potential is very high. Please take down all these properties in your notebook. You make a table the way it is shown on the screen, children, and do write all these. Now let us study about soil and crops. When you are studying about soil, our life depends on soil, and majorly because of crops. Because of the crops we get food to eat. All the living organisms require some kind of food. which is we actually get from soil, because soil will help to grow crops, and indirectly our life depends on the soil, because we depends on the crops. So let us see different kinds of soils are found in different regions because of the following factors that decides the soil structure of that place. What are the factors? Let us see. The soil structure depends upon these following factors. How the soil will be, whether sandy, silt, clay soil. It all depends on temperature, humidity, rainfall, sunlight, winds. These are the factors on which uh, the type of soil available in a particular place depends on. It decides the structure of the soil. So these are the factors, and the type of crops that grow in the soil depends upon these factors, as well as the properties of a soil. So what type of crop will grow will depend on all these factors, as well as the type of soil available there, or the properties of the soil, because every type of soil will not be suitable for every type of crop. Please take this down in your notebook. Then let us see. Vegetation is mostly in the fertile topsoil of the earth and covers the soil like green sheets spread on the surface of the earth. So as you know, vegetation, we have huge flora, the biodiversity, the huge flora, that is the vegetation on earth, and it is mostly on the topsoil of the earth, and it covers the soil like a green sheet spread on the surface of the earth. You must have seen in the remote villages, when you go, when you are in a train or in your vehicle, you see outside it's all greenery around. That is what the biodiversity, different kind of species of plants growing everywhere, that is vegetation. And the component of soil along with various climatic factors determine the type of vegetation in a particular region. So every region will have different type of vegetation. It will not be the same for every region, because the type of soil available will be different in every place. So clay and loamy soils are both suitable for growing cereals like wheat and gram. Such soils are good at retaining water. For paddy, soils rich in clay and organic matter and having a good capacity to retain water are ideal. So the ideal condition for paddy that means rice, is soil rich in clay and organic matter is required, and soil should have a good water holding capacity. For lentils, that is masoor dal and other pulses, loamy soils which drain water easily are required. And for cotton, sandy loam or loam which drain water easily and can hold plenty of air are more suitable. So here you have seen different vegetation require different types of soil for their proper growth, which are suitable for them, then only they will grow properly. And crops such as wheat are grown in the fine clay soil. So wheat grows in a fine clay soil, because clay soil are rich in humus and are very fertile. Rich in humus means they have lots of organic matter of dead and decay of plants and animals. So you have seen over here how crops and soils are related, and how soil will help the crops to grow and give a better yield. And different type of vegetation and in different region you can see, because of different availability of the soil. Now here you will have a table here. You can conclude what we have just now we have discussed. You can conclude in this table the type of soil and the crops grown we can see. Type of soil: sandy, here you can grow potato, lettuce, corn, peppers. Clay soil is good for sprouts, broccoli, kale, beans, cabbage. Loamy soil is good for apples, carrots, tomatoes and cucumber. So these are the some of the crops which grows in a particular type of soil, which you have seen in the table. Please take this down in your notebook. I hope you are writing there. Now one important concept we have to learn when you are learning about the soil. You all know, through the natural process, by natural process, formation of a soil takes a long time, years together. And how important a soil is: to form just 1 centimeter thick layer of a soil, it takes 100 years by the natural process. So we have to be very careful with the soil. We should not pollute soil. How important soil is, how our life depend on soil, you all know that. Now there is a uh, soil erosion concept where you will learn how soil get eroded, which is not uh, desirable. It is an undesirable process, the soil erosion, because then it is going to hamper or interfere in a growing of the crops, and it will also hamper with the growth of all the other living organism in the soil. So how soil erosion takes place and what is soil erosion, first of all we will see. When the top layer of the soils get removed, it is called soil erosion. So by some means, due to some human interference, due to some human activities, or by some natural process itself, soil get eroded, and that is the top layer of the soil gets removed. That is soil erosion. The soil erosion mainly occurs when the soil is left loose without vegetation or when deforestation occurs. So you all know plants and trees, they hold the soil tightly, and when there is no vegetation, it is in the open, in an open ground, the erosion of the soil, the removal of the top layer of the soil becomes easier. In such situations, strong winds and flowing water, rainwater takes away the topsoil and therefore decreases quality. So such situation, you see, it's easier for the rain, for the rainwater and the winds to take away the soil particles along with it. This is called soil erosion. Also, this kills the organisms living inside the soil, as I told you. The roots of the plants and trees keep the soil together and allow several microorganisms to grow and survive there. So, the very important role of the roots of the plants and the trees to hold the soil very tightly, and therefore it is advisable to plant more trees and avoid deforestation. We are encouraging soil erosion by doing deforestation, by cutting down trees and keeping the open ground, and for the soil to erode, which takes many years for the formation by natural process, as you all know that. Children, please take down all these points in your notebook. Soil pollution, you must have heard about soil pollution. You have learned about various pollution, water pollution, learn about sound pollution, then you have learned about the noise pollution, contamination of some by some means. So now let us see soil pollution. Sometimes people throw polythene bags and plastic articles in the soil. They pollute the soil and also kills the useful organisms living in the soil. Some other substances like chemicals, pesticides also pollute the soil. So these are the various ways by which we pollute soil, and we should definitely, we need to avoid these, or you have to minimize the soil pollution, because then it is going to be very harmful to us. It is going to come back to us in some other form, and soil pollution should be taken care. We should have some preventive measures for um, to avoid soil pollution. Please take this down, children. Now, how we prevent soil pollution? Since we have this issue of soil pollution, we should have some measures to prevent it. To prevent the soil, write down measures to prevent soil pollution. To prevent soil pollution, the use of polythene bags must be banned, and you all know the disadvantages of the polythene bags. The animals, especially the cows and the buffaloes, they graze, and then they cannot discriminate between the grass and the polythene bags lying on the floor and all that on the ground. Then they try to eat it, and their throat get choked, and that can lead to death of the animals. So polythene bags must be banned, and the waste product and chemicals must be treated there before they are released into the soil. So chemical factories, that is fertilizers and pesticides factories, when they are outletting their waste, that is chemicals, when they're throwing out their waste, it has to be treated so that to neutralize the harmful effect. You can neutralize the chemicals before disposing it, so that it is not harmful to the soil. And the use of pesticide in the agriculture field must also be minimized. Excessive use of pesticides will create lots of soil pollution, because then it is going to go into the soil and it will remain as a contamination in the soil, which will hamper the growth of the plants. When you do cropping, when you have to grow some crop, then that pesticide as a chemical will hamper the growth, will interfere with their growth. So the use of pesticide should also be minimized to prevent soil pollution. These are the various preventive measures to be taken to avoid or to prevent soil pollution. Thank you, children. I hope you are writing in your notebook. Do maintain all the points in your notebook, children. Have a wonderful day.